Today we're going to be looking at adding, subtracting, and multiplying radical expressions. The first examples are to add or subtract radicals. If I have 2 times the radical 7 plus 8 times the radical 7, I have 10 radical 7 because we add the 2 and the 8. If I have 12 times the cubic root of 2v minus 8 times the cubic root of 2v, I simply subtract 12 minus the 8, which is 4. So now I have the answer of 4 cubic root of 2v. If I have the square root of 63 plus 4 times the square root of 54, I can break that square root of 63 down to 7 times 9, which is 3 radical 7, plus 4 times 6 times 9, because I know 6 times 9 is 54. 9, again, is a perfect root, so I can take 3 out, and 3 times 4 gives me my 12, and I leave that 6 on the inside. So I have 12 radical 6. So my answer is 3 radical 7 plus 12 times the radical 6. Next, I'm adding or subtracting. I have 6 radical 3 divided by 5 minus the radical 3 divided by 4. I have to get them over the common denominator. So the common denominator I used was 20. So now I have 4 times that quantity when I put it over 20, and 5 times that quantity when I put it over 20. So simplifying, I take 4 times 6, which is 24x cubed. I still have that over 20, minus 5 radical 3 over 20. I go ahead and do the 24 minus 5 radical 3, and I find that that's 19 radical 3, and it's still over 20. Our next example is the cubic root of 3n divided by 27 plus 9 times the cube root of 3n. I can rewrite that cubic root of 3n divided by 27 as the cube root of 3n over the cube root of 27. That cube root of 27 simplifies to 3 over here. I still have the cube root of 3n on the top as a numerator. It's still plus 9 times the cube root of 3n. So now I want to get that 9 cubic root of 3n over a common denominator, so I use 3 since this stuff was already over 3. In order to do that, that number 9 became a 27. Now that they're over the same denominator, I can add them, and one of them here and 27 of them there is a total of 28 cube root 3n divided by 3. I'm asked to multiply, and when I do that, I distribute. So radical 5 times 2 is 2 radical 5, and the radical 5 times the radical 20 is the radical 100. Well, we know the radical 100 is 10, so we continue to simplify, and we find out our answer is 2 radical 5 plus 10. Now we're asked to distribute again. The radical 3 times the radical 2 is radical 6, and the radical 3 times 3 is 3 radical 3. Coming down here, a negative radical 8 times the radical 2 is a negative radical 16. And a negative radical 8 times 3 is simply a negative 3 radical 8. Continuing to simplify, we know this radical 16 is 4. So we have the radical 6 plus the radical 3 times 3 minus 4 minus the radical 6 times the radical 2. We know that the square root of 6t times the square root of 6t is 6t. And a positive 1 times a negative 1 is a negative 1. And since we know this is the difference of squares, we have no middle terms. So our answer is simply 6t minus 1.